Greetings, my friends. Today I thought what would be interesting for us to do would be to jump in to the tournament results from we're going to look at 6 different lists actually. We're going to try and find out what the trends are in the competitive scene since the new Blood Angels Codex has been released, and basically I'm going to give you a breakdown of what you can use and what you don't want to be using, and also if there's any interesting things that appear in every single list. So let's dive in. This is a bit of a different video to one that I've ever done before, so bear with me, but it should be interesting. So hello and welcome to this week's tactics video. My name is John, the BA Commander, and I am here every week on YouTube to try and help you get the most out of your Blood Angels army. So we're going to be looking at 6 different lists. They all basically did almost that 100% record. 3 of them have a loss, 3 of them are undefeated. As such, we have a first place list, we have a couple of seconds, and we have a couple of thirds and fifths or something like that. But all the lists did pretty well in their events. So let's get right into Jan. I'm not going to try and say his second name. This was a 37 player event. He came second. So we start with Mephiston as our warlord. We're running the 3 units of jump pack intercessors. We have an incursor squad, which gives us some mortal wounds / mines and some forward deploy. We had 3 small units of Sangry Guard. So this is a 3-man unit of Sangry Guard. They aren't led by any character, which is kind of interesting. We don't see. Not many people have played these 3-mans with no leader. You are still getting 15 attacks. That's strength 8, AP 3 from the swords. It's not bad. They're OC 2. We have a unit of scouts with knives. We have 2 units of Vanguard veterans with infernal pistols. Interesting. And then we've got 2 annihilators. We've got 3 destructors, and we've got a Vindicator. So we've actually spent 800 and some points on tanks here. I guess the reason we're able to spend 800 points on tanks is because we have that one single character. So he's gone shy on the characters, hard on the fire support. I mean, that is a lot of las cannons. Each destructor has 2, each annihilator has 2, so you've got 10 las cannons. The twin linked cannon on the top of the annihilator is strength 14, and you've got the Vindicator tank as well. So you've got an awful lot of fire support. And then jump intercessors and small units of Sangry Guard. So this is an interesting list. It doesn't have great melee damage apart from those Sangry Guard units, and they are just maximum 30 damage. It would be 15 attacks at 2 damage each. But I guess you could get an awful lot of value out of all these tanks, and they are cheap tanks. So in terms of the opponent having anti-tank themselves, it's not a big deal. If you lose a destructor, if you lose an annihilator, it's really not that big a deal. You've still got a lot of firepower coming out from the list. So this is probably the most heavy vehicle list from the 6 that we're going to look at. But interestingly to see that we had earmarked Predator Destructors and Vindicators in as some of the strongest vehicles for Blood Angels right now. And the interesting thing with Mephiston being the Warlord is there is a secret mission that gives you points for the Warlord being in the enemy's deployment zone or in their home field objective maybe. And Mephiston is a lone operative. So he's just sort of skirting the edges of the battlefield, generally being annoying, potentially doing secret missions, and sometimes he will actually tussle and kill some stuff. He can spike crazy high in terms of his damage output. So let's look at Brian's list next. This was a Coventry 40k GT. This was a 147 player event. He went 5-1. He just missed out on the top cut. So we've got that rage-fueled Blood Angels captain with the Power Fist. We've kept Mephiston. We have Dante. We have Lamartis and Astaroth. And we also have a Lieutenant in Phobos armor. So we've got 1 unit of Assault Intercessors on foot. These guys actually took a Hand Flamer, and then there was the Impulsor. So you guess you have the Captain, the Assault Intercessors, the Impulsor. That's sort of like a bomb, if you want to call them that. They jump out and they do a lot of damage with the Rage-Fueled Captain. We have 2 units of Assault Intercessors with... these were the Hand Flamers as well. Unfortunately, I've written Plasma Pistols here. Ignore this. These were the Hand Flamers. This was the only list that took Hand Flamers on the Assault Intercessors and the ones on foot. I'm not entirely sure the play behind that. I mean, a Hand Flamer is only strength 3, but I guess it kills hordes. It then had the 210 Death Company squads, and these were both attached to, 1 to Lamartis, 1 to Astaroth, the 6 Sangry Guard squad attached to Dante. So I mean, that is a huge point investment. That's half your army in those 3 squads. Dante's squad's like 400 points. Lamarte's and Astaroth's squad's each like 350. So yes, it's actually 1100 points. You had one squad of scouts with combat knives, and he took a missile launcher. He had the units of infiltrators, and then he had a ball predator. So this list relies very much on those 2 units of Death Company and the Sanguinary Guard doing a lot of killing. The Ball Predator can maybe shut down some infantry movement, infiltrators to hold the backfield, a lot of assault intercessors to do some scoring, and some other cheeky characters to be annoying. But it doesn't, you know, like, you need to get an awful lot of killing done with those 3 units there. And I think that could be kind of hard. I would be putting a couple of those units into strategic reserve if it was me. And I honestly hadn't expected to see too many lists running the double 10-man Death Company, because we've talked about it on stream how we think these guys are a little bit pointy. Like, they're not as competitive as they were before, when, you know, they could all take the power fists, and they were a little bit more expensive when everyone could take a power fist. But yeah, we felt like these guys were maybe still a little bit pointy, so it's interesting to see that they are doing well with 2 units and in a 140 player event to get 5 wins and only 1 loss. And I think he just probably missed the cut on some points. This is very interesting. So this is a combination: 20 Death Company plus Astaroth and Lamartes, and 6 Sanguinary Guard plus Dante. I actually thought might not be that popular or might not do that well. So just because it's so many points, right? It's 1100 points. So interesting to see it doing so well. We then move on to Chris, who was the first place with his Carnage 27 40k Grand Tournament. It was only 14 players. I mean, say that it was only is a bit harsh, but still, you know, almost like an RTT. An RTT is usually like 12 players, so or sometimes even 16. So, but he did play 4 games. He did win all of them. Very similar characters: Astaroth, Lamartes, Dante, Mephisto, and that Rage Captain. He has added the Sanguiner. This time we've got 2 units of Assault Intercessors on foot. We have an Impulsor. We have 1 unit of Jump Assault Intercessors. Again, we've got the 20 Death Company. Again, we've got the 6 Sanguinary Guard with Dante. Again, we've got the Infiltrators. Again, we've got a unit of Scouts. So the core of the list is fairly similar. And this went 4-0. So I guess, like, if we look at the last, if you're struggling to build a competitive list and you're wondering like where you could start, you could like, the difference between these 2 lists is minor, right? Like, one list has a Lieutenant, one list has the Sanguiner, one list has an Impulsor, the other list doesn't have the Impulsor and has like a Ball Predator and some extra Assault Intercessors with jump packs, right? So there's very, very little difference between these lists, and the core of both these lists is Dante plus 6 Sanguinary Guard, Lamartes plus 10, Astaroth plus 10. I mean, that's pretty simple core. And then probably you could even say the Infiltrators and a unit of Jump Assault Intercessors and the Scouts and the Captain and the Impulsor and the Assault Intercessors are all core, right? So it's like 1500 points of this list you could just transplant into your list, and at that point you're in a pretty good state, I think, for building like a strong Liberator Assault group list. So that is the first 3. If you want to feel like you want to help out my channel and leave me a like on this video, I would really appreciate it. Or if you want to subscribe to see more Blood Angels content every Friday here on YouTube, please consider doing that. And if you don't click the bell, you won't get notified when I go live or when I put out a new video, so make sure you do that too. Alright, let's look at Jan's list. This was a 3rd place finish. He actually went undefeated at a 36 player event at the Outpost. Again, Liberator Assault Group. Again, super similar on the characters. The Captain, Mephisto, Dante, Lamartes, and the Sanguiner. Same battle line, Assault Intercessors. Same dedicated transport, 1 Impulsor. 2 units of Jump Intercessors this time. Just 10 Death Company, they would be with Lamartes. We still have the Infiltrator Squad. We still have the 6 Sanguinary Guard. It's important to say you should always take the Banner Infernal Pistols, I guess, with the Sanguinary Guard with Dante. This time we've gone double Vindicator Tank. And for another lone operative Calidus Assassin. Now, double Vindicator Tank is very good. The main reason that Vindicator Tanks were perceived as weaker for Blood Angels was there was no way for them to fall back and shoot, there was no way for them to advance and shoot, and their 24 inches was a little bit of a problem, or their 24-inch range on their Demolisher Cannon. But Blood Angels have ways of getting around that. You can also reserve these Vindicator Tanks, and if both Vindicator Tanks can hit an enemy with Oath of Moment, it's a crazy number of strength 14 shots. Vindicator tanks are also I did a video about tanks a few weeks back, and they're literally the most damaging tank that we have. Yes, they have a short range, but they will do the most damage reliably into like enemy armor, and they're also really good against like enemy elites, like Terminators, for example, because they've got AP3, which is really great against Terminators, usually puts them in their vulnerable save. They've got Blast, and they've got D6 plus 3 shots. So with an average roll and the Terminator's a 5-man squad, suddenly you're getting like 7 strength 14 hits at AP3 for every failed save. Basically, you just need to roll a 3 up and it's a dead Terminator for your damage. And that's before you include the Hunter-Killer Missile. I mean, there's situations you'd shoot the Hunter-Killer Missile at the Terminators as well, just to get some extra shots in the early game, get rid of opponent Terminators. So, interesting to see double Vindicator. It was very strong in Gladius detachment. Here it's getting a little bit of a resurgence in the Blood Angels detachment, which I like. I was really enjoying playing double Vindicator 6 months or so ago. But interestingly to see the core of the list is very good, and then we've got the Calidus Assassin on there to maybe do some shenanigans with making CPs cost more, or maybe I was going to say, maybe she's just there to do lone operative things. She does have lethal hits, she is good at killing infantry, she will actually assassinate like a strength 4 character fairly easily. I actually had her assassinate Dante against me a few weeks back, so she's not bad for 100 points. Not my personal favourite, but she definitely has some play. And a lot of points spent on characters again on this list, right? Like if you add up all these characters, every character here is basically over 100 points plus the Calidus Assassin. So we've got 600 points in characters, and that's going to be a bit of a theme. I'm going to come to trends at the end of the video, but one of the things that's definitely like a bit of a theme for Blood Angels at the moment is like some people are almost leaning into this hero hammer where we have like 600 points of characters again. It's pretty crazy actually. I've been trying to keep my characters under 400, but quite a few lists blowing them right on up. We're blowing up the points. We then come to Doug. He was playing the Sanctum Wargaming Monthly RTT. There were 16 players. This was second place. I believe, I'm just going to jump back, I believe he had no losses, yes. So this was another undefeated list. The Rage Fuel Captain and Mephiston. He had Librarian Phobos armor twice, and then a Lieutenant in Phobos armor. He had 3 units of Assault Intercessor squads. He had an Assault Intercessor squad with jump packs. He had 2 units of Centurions, all with Meltas, all with Bolters. I kind of love it. I mean, it's a little bit silly, but Centurions do crazy damage to monsters and vehicles. They're probably the best unit that we have for doing damage to monsters and vehicles. They are just insanely slow, and they take up a lot of space in transports. So how are you getting across the tabletop? Well, he's hung on to 2 Land Raider Redeemers. Redeemers are crazy expensive now, 285 points. We don't see them very often anymore, but he's hung on to them. He's put Centurions inside each one. And he's going for it. I mean, I guess he could probably fit the Scout Squad inside each one as well as, or 5 Assault Intercessors as well as. So Assault Intercessors, Centurions, inside Redeemers, double Infiltrator Squad here, so he's just going to screen the entirety of his backfield. And then this list has Reavers in it. I made a point to look at the Reavers loadouts, and they were armed with combat knives, because some people are really trying to get me to play Reavers. They're saying that Reavers can be good, and I would assume the Lieutenant and Phobos armor here is attached to the Reavers. So this is an interesting list. It was undefeated. Double Redeemer, double Centurion. I don't even know if I'm crazy enough to run double Redeemer, double Centurion, but more power to Doug for this list. So I would say this is a bit of an outlier list, but the cool thing about this list, and there is cool stuff about outlier lists, is it was undefeated. I guess if there had been a final game here, he had a very good chance to probably win the tournament. You know, if they played a first versus second game, he probably had a good chance to win the event. And when you play an unorthodox list, sometimes people don't know how to deal with it. Sometimes people can't deal with it. And I've played a game recently where like 150 point of Centurions killed 2 giant knights. So they killed like 800 points of knights on their own. They are crazy good with a sustain too, if you could deliver them. And there's no better way to deliver them than the Land Raider Redeemer because of the assault ramp. So this is the craziest list, I think, out of the lot, but it's cool to see unorthodox things doing well, and it means that something I like to say on my channel is you do not have to always pick what is deemed meta, because I played a GT in June where I won the whole GT and I did not take meta because because I'm stubborn, probably, but also because I just like to play what I like to play, and I want to have fun, and I like to play certain units, and sometimes I get bored of units. You know, like, for example, at the start of this edition, Lamartez was the only competitive choice for Death Company for, like, 12 months. So I was bored of playing Lamartez. So my list literally evolved from, I only play one army, I do not want to play Lamartez for 12 months, so I changed my list just to get Lamartez out of there, because I've been playing him for 12 months. So it's cool to see somebody is willing to take a risk, do double Centurions, double Redeemer, and go for it and do really well at a tournament. So big shout out to you, Doug. I love the fact that you didn't go... I love the fact that you created this by yourself. It's nice to see, it's fresh, and I love it. So bonus points to Doug for his... I mean, my bonus points mean literally nothing, but still, that's how I feel. Alright, final list by Joel. He went 4-1, 5th place at a 40-player event. Again, we've got the captain. This time Joel went with like double fight first, but in terms of the Judiciar and the captain with Speed of the Primarch. So he did 2 units of Assault Intercessors on foot, a unit of Assault Intercessors with jump packs. He did 2 Bladeguard veteran squads. So one of these would be attached to the Judiciar for fight first. He did a Redeemer as well. We did 2 squads of Sangre Guard, one of which will be led by the Warlord, which is the fight first captain. We did 2 squads of Scouts. And then nice to see, this was actually the only list that included the Terminators, and notably the Terminators had come down again in points, down to 170 points. So we include the Cyclone Missile Launcher, and he actually mixed it up. He took 3 Power Fists and 2 Chain Fists. I think I prefer just taking Power Fists on them all, but I guess if you are trying to kill big, nasty knights, then that anti-vehicle 3-up Chain Fist will actually be useful in some situations, because these Terminators, if they use Oath of Moment, get +1 to hit, so it means your Chain Fists can hit on 3s with full rerolls, and then you'd wound those Toughness 30 Knights on 3s with the Chain Fists, which could actually be quite meaningful, or like a big Orc Stomper or something like that. So it's good to see Bladeguard. I think Bladeguard are very strong right now, so it was nice to see those 2 units of Sangre Guard here, so 12 Sangre Guard. We haven't seen too many people run 12 Sangre Guard. They are pointy. When I say pointy, I just mean expensive, but this is the... And one unit is definitely not led by a character, because it only has one character with a jump pack. So you've got 2 units of Sangre Guard, 1 led, 1 unled. They are a bit weaker if they're unled, because they don't get the -1 to wound from being led by a character. But interesting to see you can make this work. Scouts with knives is my preferred option for Scouts, because I kind of always miss with my missile launcher or my sniper rifle. And I'm really a fan of Bladeguard at the moment for Blood Angels, so it was really nice to see some Bladeguard in there, especially with Fight First Bladeguard. The new strat that we've got, Savage Echoes, is very good with Bladeguard. It means when they are charged, you can get the +1 attack, you can get you can take +1 strength as well and take a battle shock, which is typically probably worth it, depending if it's a breakpoint. So you can go to strength 6, you can go to 30 attacks on the 6 guys, and then you can use your Sword of the Emperor. I always get that ability wrong. I think it's called Sword of the Imperium, to reroll 1s to hit, and that'll extend out to Judiciar as well, who has precision and dev wounds. So a lot of good in this list as well. A little bit of difference as well. So, you know, it does seem like there's a good variety of Blood Angels, and that might be one of the biggest takeaways from looking at these lists is... Well, let's jump into some conclusions and trends. I was going to say conclusions and friends. You are my friends. Thank you for being here, my friends. 10-man Death Company unit. They remain super popular, actually led by Lamartez or Astaroth. We were seeing them in a lot of lists. People are finding a solid degree of success in 6 to 12-man Sangre Guards, and even the 3-man squads are getting play. That one list had 3 of the smaller 3-man squads. Full melee lists and the hybrid approach seem to be performing similarly, and this is a significant shift for Blood Angels. Like, if we go back like a year or so, everybody was running full melee Blood Angels. There was no real hybrid approach, I would say, or there was very little hybrid approach. It was maybe more like 80% full melee, 20% hybrid approach. I've always been in this hybrid approach camp. Like, I always like to bring some tanks, I always like to bring some dreadnoughts or something. I like to build a balanced list. So this is the first time, I think, since my channel has been here for the last 4 or 5 years now, where we've actually seen, like, looking at those events, the hybrid approach, you know, like, so this list only had a Land Raider Redeemer, so I would say this is a melee list. This list had 2 Redeemers, so kind of still a melee list. This list had double Vindicator, so that's kind of on the hybrid approach, right? This list here was the all melee, bar like, I think it had a single Ball Predator. No, just an Impulsor. Then this list at the start had the single Ball Predator, and then this list had like the 6 tanks. So yeah, I mean, the double Land Raider Redeemer still is kind of like an all melee build, but I mean, 2 Land Raider Redeemers, that is 500 points, 550 points in shooting. Maybe the shift isn't as noticeable as I think it is, but I think there is beginning to be a little bit of a shift towards hybrid approach Blood Angels armies. So that is Blood Angels armies with some tanks or some dreadnoughts are performing just as well in the meta. And I think those I think the hybrid approach is maybe a little bit easier to play. But I guess the flip side of that is you don't bring any of the tanks and you go this sort of like hero hammer. We're going to basically touch on that in the very next bullet point. There's a very wide range of character picks, right? One list has single Mephiston, which is like 125 points, all the way up to multiple lists with only 600 points, and damn near every Primaris character we have, right? There's a bunch of lists that had that new Captain, Astaroth, Lamortis, Dante, and the Sanguinar. So, the hero hammer surprises me a bit. So it seems to be like maybe so we've got options now, right? You can go that hybrid list, get 3 or 4 tanks in there. You can go the hero hammer list, get like 5 characters in there, or you can just do none of that and just bring crap loads of melee. So for the first time, probably since the channel has been here, there is lots of options for Blood Angels, and I think this is only a great thing. The one negative, I think, is every list is Liberator Assault Group. So we did get 3 detachments in the new Codex. One of them is playable, and everybody is playing it, but there is a lot of variety in that one detachment. Fighting First was actually picked less often than I would expect it to be. It is 25 points for once the game Fight First, and the only list it was picked in was when the list didn't include Mephiston or the Sanguinar. So there is something to be said of, like, if you have Mephiston or the Sanguinar, maybe you don't need Fight First, and I think that's probably like a design decision in your list. Personally, at the moment, I am using Fight First, and I'm not using Mephiston and the Sanguinar, so it seems to be like people are seeing it the same as I'm seeing it. You either take a Fight First squad, or you take these characters to do the Fight First stuff, and it's down to good and clever positioning of these characters. The Rage-Fueled Warrior, he is in 5 of the 6 lists. It's always on the Captain. I guess when you take that Captain, which we know is very strong with his 9 Power Fist attacks once per game, and you potentially use your Oath of the Moment, and you give him the Rage-Fueled, and you just reroll everything, he can do a boatload of damage. Rage-Fueled Warrior for 10 points is a very strong pick. I don't know how long it's going to stay at 10 points. I was expecting it to honestly be 20 at minimum. It's just probably as good as the Fight First enhancement. Maybe a little bit weaker. Mephiston was actually the most popular character. I would not have thought this based on the fact that all his damage is D3, and having played him a bunch of times, his damage is so unreliable that I just kind of hate the character. But he is the most popular character in 5 of the 6 lists, so people are getting a lot of work out of Mephiston. Assault Intercessors were the only chosen battle line unit. There's a good variety of Predators, Vindicators. I guess the Land Raider Redeemers are in there as well, but what was interesting is none of these lists had Gladiators. Typically Gladiator Lancer is the meta pick. It was none of these lists. I didn't actually try and pick lists that didn't have Gladiator Lancer. I actually just tried to pick the lists from the biggest events I could find with the best win rates, right? That's what I was looking for. And surprisingly, there was no Gladiator Lancer picks in any of these lists. The Scouts and the Jump Intercessors remain wildly popular. We know that even at 10-point increase, Jump Intercessors are amazingly good. There was no Suppressors and there was no Outriders. A lot of people have said that they're interested in the Suppressors, and some people have started to get interested in Outriders, but they just didn't exist in any of these lists again. But Reavers were picked. I should have put a bullet point here that says Reavers were picked in one list. So I guess if you're looking for a cheap power armored unit that has precision but doesn't have any AP, then Reavers, they got picked. And then Infiltrators were present in 66% of the list. The 2 lists that didn't have Infiltrators, one of them was sort of our, let me see if I get this right. It was our double Bladeguard double Sanguinary Guard, double Scouts, Terminators list. So I just probably think he ran out of points for Infiltrators and decided that he didn't need them. And the other list that didn't have Infiltrators was the very first list that had like all the tanks. I imagine you got so many tanks sitting in the backfield, you maybe felt you didn't need Infiltrators. All the Predators have like 48-inch range, right? So maybe Infiltrators are a very important pick, and they were in 4 of the 6, but potentially if you didn't have 6 or I think it was 6 tanks in that first list, you might have seen them in like 83% of the lists. So that is the conclusions and trends. If you did not see the video I made about Astrath versus Lamartas a few weeks back in terms of like their damage output, their survivability, how good they are with the 10-man death company, then I made a whole video on that. I'm going to link that over there. You can watch that video now if you'd like to support the channel. There's a link in the video description to my Patreon page. I would really appreciate it. You can obviously like and subscribe as well. And the one other thing to say is I do actually review community lists every Sunday night at 8 PM UK time on the channel. That's a live stream. We're on episode 174 now of the live show. So if you want your list over to me to give it a bit of a review, help you maybe make some improvements, come and hang out with us 8 PM Sunday night. I hope you guys have a great week. As I say, this is the first time I've done like a competitive trends video, so if there is any comments, positive or negative, please leave them down below. Maybe just don't be super mean if it's negative. Give me something constructive to work with. I'll try and improve for next time. You guys all have a great week. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for watching to the end of the video. I'll see you next time. By the blood are we made strong, my friends. Peace.